Another type of input element is the checkbox. So in this other section, under other expenses, I want to have a few checkboxes. So I'm going to put these in paragraphs because I want them to be separated. And again, we use the input type and now or the input element, and for type we put checkbox. And we give it a name, so we identify what variable it is associated with. So for this variable name, I want it to be transportation 2. These are variable names, so transportation 2. And I want another one, so I'm going to do again an input of type checkbox, but now I'm going to say transportation from. And let's go see what we get with this. And there we get checkboxes. See how they showed up? Now, they're not very meaningful without some sort of label, right? So notice that the checkboxes, though, they work and you can check and uncheck them. But let's go ahead and put some labels on them as well. Now this time I want to put the label to the right side. Up until now I've used labels on the left side. And when I do that, I put the label first and then I put the input element. But now, since I want it the other way, I'm going to put the input element and then the label. And so here I'm going to put the label, and I want to connect it, so I'm going to use the for attribute. Notice I don't have an ID up here, so I'm going to add an ID, and I'm going to call it transport2, and that's going to become the value for the for attribute. Now between the opening and closing label, I'm going to put the words that I want to be in that label. And I want one very similar to this after this one, so I'm going to copy that down here. And now I'm going to put ID here equals transportation from, and that's what I'm going to put in the for this. And I'm going to say this is from the hotel to the airport. And I'm going to give them one more clue and put return transportation from the hotel. All right, so let's go see what we've got. And there we've got checkboxes with labels following them. And now when I click on the label, notice how it sets the checkbox. Because they're connected, it responds to me either clicking on the box itself or clicking on the label. Let's add one more. So I'm just going to put one more paragraph, and this one is again a checkbox. It has a different name because it will be associated with a different variable. The ID matches the for label, matches the ID value, and it's meal expenses. So now I have 3 checkboxes, and they each are connected, so I can check on the box or the label to check them, and anyone can be either checked or unchecked. So let's check 2 and submit them and see what we get for these. Now notice, okay, so we have this variable transportation to, that's the variable name we said with name, and transportation from, that was the other variable name we specified, transportation to, transportation from, and the value is on. Now what about our variable meals? Notice that meals doesn't even show up in the list. When it's unchecked, the variable itself does not even show up in the list. So if I go back and I change it and I say, well, uncheck that one. Well, let's see. Let's check those 2 and submit. What do we get? We get the transportation to and the meals on. If we have all of them unchecked, none of them show up in the list. And if we have all 3 checked, they all 3 show up. And that's how checkboxes work.